welcome to WagerTalk TV. I'm Scott Spreitzer with Preston Johnson, a.k.a. Sports Cheetah of WagerTalk.com. Of course, Matthew Holt, he is the VP of Business Development at CGT Sportsbooks in Las Vegas, and we're talking a little college basketball, 3 video best bets for the weekend. College basketball, guys, my favorite sport to handicap. I know it is yours also, man. I mean, we talk college basketball every single day, texting back and forth, emailing back and forth. It's always pretty much been that way for me. And I'm not talking just about wins and losses. I'm talking about watching the games, in-game betting, researching the games, the whole shebang. I just love to be involved with college basketball and enjoy capping it. So I want to get right to it, knowing that you feel the same way. Matt, we're going to start with you. Give us a game that you're looking at for this weekend, a game that you're going to sink your teeth into in all likelihood with your bankroll.
Well, for the first time this year, radio or videos, I'm not going to give out the Florida State Seminoles on a weekend selection.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
It's now on video. We got that on video.
There you go. But I am going to stick in the ACC here, and I'm going to go with Clemson laying about a 3.5 number at home to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech sort of became the darling of the ACC after a 12-1 start, which included that big upset win over Duke. But, of course, Grayson Allen wasn't there for Duke that week. And since then, Virginia Tech not playing very good basketball. This is a Clemson team that has lost 3 out of their last 4 games by 3 points or less. Really heartbreaking losses. I think Blossom Game for Clemson is one of the best players in the ACC. They need a win desperately here, and this is probably the right time to do it against a Virginia Tech team that's come back down to earth after that 12-1 start and that big win over Duke. And real quick, I'm going to throw in a quick bonus one. Michigan -8 this weekend at home against Illinois. Michigan 2-4 in their last 6 games, desperately needing a win at home. Seniors Zach Irvin and Derek Watson admitted that they both need to play better. When they both score 20, Michigan wins every time. They both scored 20 against Nebraska. Michigan got the W. This week, both of them, you should expect big efforts from the senior in a revenge game from less than a week ago as Illinois got the win in Champaign against Michigan. Look for the revenge spot here. Both seniors to step up. Walton and Irvin have big games. Michigan rolls by double digits.
Tell you what, if I'm coaching Michigan, there's only one thing on the board when you walk in to that locker room, and that's Illinois, 60% field goals and 50% three-pointers when they lost to Illinois just last week, as you mentioned. Cheetah, where are you headed for Saturday?
Yeah, I'll be betting a later game in the San Francisco-San Diego matchup on Saturday evening. And I like the Dons. My number, I expect it to be around 3.5. But I think we'll actually get a little bit of a lower number, probably a 2 or 2.5, just because of recent play. San Francisco, they lost at Santa Clara. They lost when they hosted Gonzaga, then they had St. Mary's, then they had to play on the road at BYU.
7 or 8 days.
Yeah, and so they lost 4 of their last 5, and 4 of those games were just brutal. And they competed in all of those, actually. The road BYU game was really close to the end. There was a little foul game, and they lost by 8 or 10. The Gonzaga game, they scored 80, and they played really well, but Gonzaga shot like 67% for the first 38 minutes before they put in the walk-ons, and then they didn't score again. I think they're a lot better team. Earlier in the year, I think it was the Diamond Classic, something or other tournament, they beat Utah, they beat Illinois State, and then they lost to San Diego State in the title game of that tournament. But they're a really strong team. And San Diego, they just upset BYU at home. They have a game against LMU, I believe, tomorrow evening, but then they'll play and host San Francisco on Saturday. And I just think you're going to get a team in San Francisco that's going to be undervalued. And San Diego now, after that BYU upset, might be slightly overvalued. So if we get like a 2 or better, that's definitely going to be a big play for me. I like San Francisco.
I'm going to make it a 6 now.
Okay, that's good.
What was that last game? You didn't have to get. It was in December. It was 31-9 was the first score. I happened to see in that game last time these two teams hooked up. 31-9 with, I don't know, 6 minutes to go.
I didn't even realize that.
And it was just a ridiculous amount of field goal attempts that were going in. Second half was a complete different story as San Diego played a better second half. And by the way, both of these teams I have, improving power rating wise since they last met on December 29th. But as you mentioned, San Francisco might be flying under the radar if we don't let him know about it because of what they did in those 7 or 8 days having to play the 3 teams.
I
kind of a
watched
murderer's
that full
row.
Utah game.
They
were a
great.
10-point underdog to Utah and easily beat them outright.
Well, is it Kyle Smith, I believe, the head coach? He came from Columbia. He was there for 5 or 6 years. And it was like they won like 76 games over the 5 years, which is the most Columbia had won over a 5-year stretch since the 60s. Yeah. He's a great coach, a lot of motion, and sets up a lot of wide open threes, and they have a ton of shooters. their offense can really hang with anyone if they're hitting like that Utah game. And putting 89 on Utah, I mean, that's really impressive. I think that was the final score was 89-86.
We were talking about San Francisco a couple weeks ago on radio about watch out for this team. They're kind of flying under the radar when it comes to the point spread. Guys, I'm going to take Creighton, and I'm going to lay the points on Saturday against Marquette. And for those who follow college basketball, then you already know that they're maybe the at least a contender for Player of the Year in college basketball. Maurice Watson Jr. Was lost for the rest of the season for the Blue Jays in their most recent game against Xavier, torn ACL. And you're talking about 9 assists per game. He can also score. They were appointment TV for me. Watson, and then, of course, the big kid, the freshman, redshirt freshman, Patton, were two guys that I wanted to watch every time they played. And, man, they had a nice little symbiosis going on the floor for those two. They're going to probably go with Zierden mostly as the point guard. They've also got a freshman who gets about 5 or 6 minutes a game who can back up and give and spell Zierden a little bit of rest once in a while. Really quick before we wrap it up, what are their power ratings? I'm thinking, 2 to 3 point, well, probably 3 points difference with Watson not being on this roster any longer.
Yeah, and this time of year, look, it's 2 to 3 points difference, but what it really hurts moving forward is that you've developed your team at this point. Absolutely. And that when you lose a star like that, it's hard to get that freshman who's only played 5 minutes a game to step in and be the leader that Watson is. At this point, any hopes of winning a Big East tournament or winning, going past even the first or second round in the NCAA tournament are probably gone for a Creighton team who was a legit Elite Eight contender before.
No more pedal to the metal basketball. That's the problem. No more 90 points per game. I think they'll beat Marquette, though. I think this first game without them, they're going to do quite well. They played good in the second half against Xavier to wrap up that win without Watson. But once they start playing Villanova for the second time and the top teams in the league, I think Creighton's going to be in some trouble. So there you go. I'll take Creighton. Sports Cheetah says to take San Francisco over San Diego. Matt with a couple of plays. He's on Michigan, and then a Sunday play on the Clemson Tigers. Don't forget, you can get $10 off any WagerTalk package this weekend. All you got to do is use the coupon code Packers10. He's Preston. He's Matt. I'm Scott. More WagerTalk TV to come. Stick around.